Transdimensional taxi driver, and I'm going to continue with a follow-up to my other video about colds and flu. In that video, I explained that the reason why you get colds and flu is because you learned to copy your parents when you were just a toddler. Toddlers, very young children, learn amazingly well. Everyone knows they're great mimics. And they're basically walking around in a state of hypnotic trance. And that's why you get colds, because you learned when you were a very young person to get a cold from your parents. They were coughing, then what would happen? You would cough. This is counter to your programming. Your programming says coughs and colds are caused by viruses. I'm sorry, you're programmed. You're programmed when you were a young child to emulate someone who was sick. And now you are programmed by that early programming where you actually experience the feeling of being sick after you've seen someone coughing and hacking. And you also have been brainwashed by what I call Rockefeller science, which is phony baloney science that is taught to you when you're in public school and university. Why does Rockefeller science work? Things like antibiotics, it's all part of the brainwashing. You're going to say, I'm an idiot. Sorry. I'm not an idiot, but you are highly, highly conditioned and brainwashed. And you've been brainwashed for so many years, so many years. How are you going to unbrainwash yourself? Well, what is some of the things that can show you the brainwashing? Studies came out where they took senior citizens who were just old and falling apart and getting into dementia. And then they took the senior citizens to a specially built city. It would be like a Hollywood movie set. And they brought these people back to let's say, their teenage years. So everything that they experienced when they were 17 was going on in this Hollywood set. The buildings looked like everything was in when they were 17. The cars looked like that. The music on the radio was all from the same era when they were 17. Everything, the food was all the same. When they brought people back to the experience of when they were 17, lo and behold, it was like they de-aged. You'll find the study. I read it many years ago. I can't remember where it was, but I read the study. So it's one more story, an anecdote perhaps, but it's a story that proves to you the reason that we get old and die is that we are conditioned to believe that is what happens to human bodies. In other words, in our subconscious mind, we have got a death wish. And the death wish expresses itself as us growing old, getting disease, and dropping dead. Is this a shock to your system? Well, you're going to have to deal with this subconscious death wish that is programmed somewhere in your subconscious mind. You're going to have to find this death blah 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 blah. You're going to have to find this death wish series of, we're going to call it a complex, and you're going to have to disarm it. How are you going to do that? Mostly you're going to have to okay, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to inner silence where I don't have thought. In other words, it's deep, deep meditation. That's how I'd access this kind of stuff. Have I accessed it? Yes, I've found it. And what am I doing to disarm it? I'm mostly just being here, breathing, and so on. In other words, it is my presence, me being there and just being very still. How does that disarm these kind of complexes? It just does. Because these complexes are not natural. They are very, very low vibration. Very, very, very low by vibration. They calibrate under 200 on the scale of human consciousness, death and disease. It's very low vibe. And remember that the collective consciousness on planet Earth is only about 207, and it just got over 200, which is just barely into the positive area on the scale of human consciousness in 1987. So there's a whole pile of people that calibrate way under 200 on the planet. So you've got in the collective of humanity a hell of a lot of negative programming. You can't help it. You're part of the collective. You're part of the collective just by virtue of being human. You raising your consciousness is a great blessing to all the other humans who aren't doing anything, believe it or not. The best thing you can do for other humans is to seek enlightenment for the benefit of you and all the other humans. The very best thing you can do is meditate and pursue enlightenment. But anyway, what happens when you go to inner silence in a meditation? Your presence dissolves these negative thought forms. How do you know you've found these negative thought forms? It's not really necessary for your conscious mind to know that it's found these things. But what I'm using right now is muscle testing. I'm using muscle testing with my hand behind the phone, believe it or not, my two hands. But that's how I'm doing it, and I'm a very advanced muscle tester. But in essence, what happens with me is when I go to inner silence, I am dissolving all kinds of low frequency thought form complexes, not in my mind, but in the collective. The reason I'm not doing it in my mind is because I've cleared it all out of my mind. Then why do I experience colds? It's because I haven't got rid of these generous gifts that I got when I was a child, which are all part of the collective. So why is it different? It's because when you've dealt with your personal issues that are directly related to your personal experiences in life, some people might say inner child work, or other people would say dealing with your traumatic episodes. Once you've dealt with all that, then you start working on the collective. And it's because, as Carl Jung, the famous psychiatrist, psychologist, said, there is a collective unconscious below our conscious minds. And in the collective, it's all kind of garbages. And it takes a lot of people who are of high vibration to be here in the planet and spending a lot of time in inner silence to dissolve these complexes. There's other modalities of healing, such as the Ho'oponopono, which are designed to get to these deeply unconscious complexes that outpicture as diseased humanity. So to get to disarm the death wish, a very low vibration, hidden thing. Basically, are you going to have luck with it? Um, it's going to be like a projected probability thing because we don't have really good information about the future. It's a projected probability. Projected probability is you yourself are not going to die, but you might experience seeing a physical body that you thought was you drop dead. Most people are very fearful of death of the body, and that's why they don't even want to talk about it. But in your past lives, that's what happened to you. Your body dropped dead, and you were still alive, and you witnessed yourself looking at your dead body, and then you went off to other places for quite some time before you reincarnated as a human again and again and again. So, is that going to happen to you in this life? Projected probabilities are if you're of age 25 or age 6, yes. How long is it going to take before humans aren't forced into dying because of this unconscious death wish? Might be 600 years. Because the fact of the matter is there are a hard number of these death things. In other words, these death things are uprooting them is way more difficult than just being in presence of them. You have to have way more high vibrational sages on the planet in order to get rid of this deeply rooted belief structure in human consciousness. And why don't we have them? Usually the sages just leave the planet. They leave the body, they leave the planet. And so there's not that many people of high vibration. And, with 6 or 8 billion people on the planet, how are you going to get them all working on this? You're not. It's too big of a thing to shift in our generations. In 600 years, if people keep reincarnating and keep doing spiritual work over that 600 years, we might get to the point where we don't have to drop dead in the body. Because people really still believe that the physical body is a physical thing. It's not. It's a thing in consciousness, but people don't believe it. They say it's just like a car, and your car breaks down when it gets a certain age. It rusts out. The brakes need replacing. The engine parts need replacing. Various things just wear out, and people think the human body is the same thing. It's not the same thing. It's biological. It's based in cells, but it's deeply rooted complexes. What if we were to get advanced technology from extraterrestrials? Because this is talked about in YouTube, for example, med beds. Potential probabilities of this are you're not going to see it. You're not going to see it. Why am I taking the negative view? Because it's unlikely. But if this stuff was made available to you, would it work? But possibly it would. When are we going to have first contact with extraterrestrials? Many people already have. Should you worry about dropping dead? No, you should let go of worry. Just start working on raising your consciousness and you're going to be fine. I'm Harry.